Hello and welcome to another new year and a new season of Future of XYZ. 2025 first episode is a super exciting topic. We are talking today with Henry Kim, who is the global head of design strategy in the CX office of Samsung Mobile Experience based in Seoul, South Korea, about the future of CX. Henry, thanks so much for joining us on this first episode of the new year of season 7 of Future of XYZ.
Thanks for having me. I cannot be more honored and excited. So let's do this.
Well, I mean, I want to obviously get into your background, but I'm going to start us out because I think most people are looking at this title saying like CX, and your title is in the office of CX. So what is CX? How do we define customer experience, especially in the context of your expertise?
Through my career, I have held on multiple titles with a different job description. I have a bachelor's degree in graphic design and master's degree in visual communication. So obviously, I'm graphic designer, typographer, publication designer, the old school, stationery designers and poster designer, whatever. I design everything. And after that, the first or second job was web designer. We don't use that term anymore. So I started my career as an interface designer and action design. I don't know if some of our listeners are old enough to remember Director or Flash, whatever, CD-ROM, I designed all those things too. And then the Premiere, After Effects, all this motion media. So it evolved into brand designer. And also the term experience and the user became really popular. Of course, the UI, UX became really popular. And to me, of course, experience is everything. But I'm not like the biggest fan of the term like a customer experience because it's very specific. Like a term like the customer or the user, people, human, all this has a slightly different nuances. So company use the term customer because the way they serve the customer, the way the commodity and product. Designer prefer user, but I like a people. I like to say like a human, but I guess too big word, but I like a people. So to me, it's like end-to-end human experience. It depends on, or it doesn't really matter whether it's a commercial or non-commercial goods and services. That can be public infrastructure, or it could be cell phone experience, or restaurant experience, or public transportation experience, or healthcare. So because everything is designed, if you look around, like everything is designed. My glasses are designed by someone, our clothing is designed by someone, so everything is designed. That means a designer should design everything. So
I agree.
so customer is not only people who pay for either buying something, it's more like end-to-end human experience that exists in our life.
It's super interesting. And you mentioned a little bit about your academic trajectory. I mean, you grew up in South Korea, but you came to the US, certainly for undergrad. You have a degree, as you mentioned, a bachelor's in fine art from the University of Illinois, Chicago in graphic design. You end up getting your MFA, your master's in fine art, as you mentioned, in visual communication from the Art Institute of Chicago, one of the best art schools in the United States, if not in the world. You then taught, you were the former associate chair of graphic design at SCAD, which Savannah College of Art and Design, one of the best, before going on to be the global design director at Coca-Cola in Atlanta. You are now at Samsung, but you've been across this breadth of people experience, let's call it, through design. When you think about, we're going to stick with CX for the purpose of this conversation, but I understand, is CX just about those customers, those clients, those consumers, those people, those humans, or are there other stakeholders who need to be considered, and are there different ways of thinking about that given your experience in different places?
That's an interesting question. When I went to school, that was the tip of modernism. So I was told that the designers is one of the most sophisticated and civilized like a species, and that we were like a design army, like and the vulgarity out there is just it's unbearable. Like I was told that okay, so we are design army, we go out and make a world peace. Like people are so stupid, we have to teach them what is sophisticated life and everything. So that was my mentality. And when I graduated with my graphic design degree, I had like a list of 100 typography rules, So something I shouldn't do, something I should do. So it's
Wow.
like a dogma. It's like a religion, almost like a design cult. I believe the Bauhaus was a design cult. So anyway, we believe that we can make world peace. And then my career evolved in my current role. So I consider myself as an enterprise designer. Design is not the only thing can save the company and save the world. Obviously, it's really, really important and essential, the part of the entire organization. But like we always need to work with the R&D and product planning, experience planning, and the brand, IMC, even procurement. So a lot of designers back then, I never thought that I needed to be able to read like Excel spreadsheet, like the data, all these things. But luckily, I had another bachelor's degree in ecosystem engineering. So I have like two different brain side of the brain. So I have like this engineering side of the brain, very analytical and meticulous side, and then
Yep.
the design side. And before I studied design, I actually studied film too. So I try to keep the balance between these two, like a rationality and emotion. How I can keep the balance between these two. That like helped me to never hesitate to create my career journey to move into something very unexpected and very different, because I believe that I could do that, So in my setting, I always need to work with other counterpart and the stakeholders, because the design cannot be decided by design. That's a completely different the perspective from the way I was taught. I was like a designer, so always be in charge of design. Nobody can say shit. And can I say shit? I don't know.
Absolutely.
Because we own this, so we are the only one who can make a decision. Like, I'm not really sure, because especially in my company, without R&D support, the design cannot even, exist. So
Absolutely.
but design is not the surface or package of technology, but both a combination with the technology and service and design and the branding and the marketing all together that create this vast synthesis of everything. So when I think about design, especially custom experience design, it cannot be just one person, one company, one perspective. That's why it's very difficult to create a real end-to-end experience. It sounds easy. Everyone said word end-to-end, but do people even know what end-to-end is? Where it started, where it ended? Not even the enterprise setting. One stakeholder cannot be in charge of everything. So my role, I believe, as an end-to-end designer is to talk to everybody, be able to speak every languages. I cannot talk to my R&D about the kerning or tracking or color, different hue, different saturation. So it sounds very foreign to them.
Yep.
And when they talk to me of their language, if I don't understand it, I cannot communicate, right? So we are designer, we are communicator. If you fail to communicate with even someone who we work with, so obviously our design won't be successful in terms of communicating what we are trying to provide to our customer. So for me, understanding and be able to speak the language of our counterpart is very critical. I think that's what designers should practice more.
Well, it's a super interesting perspective, Henry, and I appreciate your sharing that, because I don't think it's something that we think about a lot. I don't think it's a lot of what designers think about, but it's certainly not what business people think about. I think design sometimes, as you said, either is put up on a pedestal or it's kind of like sloughed off as like, oh, those designers, right? It's this creative thing. And the truth is that for customer experience, for CX to be good, it is kind of all encompassing. And so you need to be able to wrap a 360. And in order to bring that to life, you have to be able to speak with all your business counterparts and your, as you said, your engineering R&D counterparts and your go-to-market and sales guys and all the whole caboodle. What is kind of, there are all these various elements, but what is the role of branding in that kind of wraparound?
Well, in terms of experience, let's say like experience, the term is experience is from like the people's point of view, right? So the people experience. I don't think I can force you a certain experience. So as a designer, what we can provide is we design the service, we design the process, and then let people come in and experience our service and the process. If they experience what we expect them to experience, then I consider that as a successful design. If they experience something different from what I expected, that's a bad design. There's no bad human, there's no bad people, there's always a bad design. So I think a designer have to keep in mind that we design something, people didn't get it, and go, shit, they don't understand what you're trying to say. No, it's your fault. Your design is wrong because you didn't design the system that can successfully convey what they are trying to convey. So when we design experiences, especially customer experience, I think we have to really dissect every single anchor point to design the entire process. We cannot design this experience a bubble, then people don't even know where to start. So that's where expertise kicks in. So we should be able to dissect and design like every single anchor point. So I consider like three very important the notion of experience need to be considered. So number one is a pure design experience. So this is my term. I call it PX, pure experience. This is like a pure design experience. If you design chair, it should be comfortable. You know, the full stop. If the chair itself is not comfortable, we cannot do anything around it, right? If it's a restaurant experience, food should be good. If it's a book design, the right grid system should be there, the right typeface, right typography, you know, so that's like a basic stuff. If it's a UX, like the whole entire, the UX experience should be flawless. And if it's a platform, the content should be good. So without content, platform doesn't mean anything, right? So that is a pure experience. I think that's completely the designer should be in charge of. And the next is the brand experience. Well, so let's go back to pure experience a little bit. That's basically what I was practiced as in my previous life as a graphic designer. So in this case, the notion of essential design is very important because the design, something doesn't disrupt people's life. So that's the best design. Like it's something turned into the standard of life. Like there's a concept called like a Norman door by Don Norman. There's a door. People use the door without realizing there was a door. That's the best design. You know, people sit in a chair without realizing they are sitting on the chair. It's like Helvetica, you know, Helvetica is everywhere, best than ever.
It's invisible at some point.
Yeah, it's a ubiquitous, and then it's a beautiful, but when you say something with the Helvetica, it said what it said, right? When I say Helvetica, Henry Kim in Helvetica, it says Henry Kim, it doesn't say Helvetica. And that's the function of Helvetica. So there's a beauty of essence. You know, essential, some people consider essential design kind of similar with simplicity, but it's completely different. The word esse in Latin, it means being and existence. So that means it's a focus on the reason of being. So why this phone exists? Then we focus on that. That's essential design. So this is what designers always like to talk about. Whenever you go to design conference, we talk this kind of stuff. And yes, design is everything, whatever. But from company's point of view, the brand experience is very important. So like a pure experience and brand experience. From brand experience point of view, it's creating like authentic and distinct emotive experience, both aesthetically and technologically, and experientially is very crucial.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will be same thing. You know, like you go to one restaurant and it like a best burger, and then go to the next restaurant. Oh, this burger is good too. So which restaurant you want to go to? It doesn't really matter because both are good burger. That's not good branding. So the one restaurant should be able to provide something very disruptive, distinguished, which is authentic, which is very different from Helvetica concept, right? So Helvetica, yes, everybody knows that I'm like a super Helvetica fanatic. But like the thing is, when I work for the company, I cannot make a company as a Helvetica. So that's not good brand. So because people should remember this company, this brand, as a very unique experience. So this two concept of pure experience and brand experience, it sounds like an oxymoron, But to me, that oxymoron is the beauty of design dialectics, So we have this like a pure experience, the essential experience. At the same time, how can we add the personality, like emotive experience on the top of it? So that is the good customer experience. It's a pure experience, the best essential experience ever. At the same time, people will never forget. So they have to come back to that experience. To me, that's the best customer experience. So
That's a pretty amazing definition, Henry, I have to say. And as a brand person, I love adding the emotive piece on where, especially in the world that we live in, where experience is becoming more and more digital, right? And technology, I mean, you're in a tech company now. One could argue that Coca-Cola is not a tech company, but of course, everything is kind of technological. What is that intersection of technology and innovation in CX design today, and how is it kind of evolving for the future, do you think?
We are living in the age of exponential growth, so especially in tech. So tech is inevitably essential part of our lives now. There's a user-centric experience around the tech is getting more and more important. So the connecting point between technology and experience is where the potential improvement of human life truly resides. So that's where the first step of new product design in our industry, tech industry, should begin. So technological innovation without considering people's experiences, that's a gimmick. So there are technology, and then why do I need a technology? It sounds cool, but it never helped me to have a better life. So disruption for the sake of disruption only create unnecessary visual and experience pollution. So I call that like a visual rubbish. So an experience of rubbish. There are so many rubbishes out there already. So I have no interest in adding another piece of shit into people's life.
Thank you.
I think a truly successful customer experience, like experience in tech industry, is the company or the brand or designer can really identify how that piece of technology can improve human life. Then add that experience on the top, it will be the revolutionary. Otherwise, we just keep adding more and more technology. So I really appreciate that kind of innovation. For example, GPS, now generative AI is becoming one of that, or rideshare, who thought that kind of service could be possible. So now everybody take it as almost for granted, right? The GPS is everywhere.
Absolutely.
But I just cannot imagine when I printed out even MapQuest, or I had the book of the maps, to figure out how
Thomas Guide.
I know, exactly. So now everybody don't even consider that as a part of their life, because now we have a GPS. We don't even have a GPS. Yeah. So to me, that's why I think the judgment or evaluation of a good CX or good design will be determined by time. So it will take time, and the people take it as an essential part of our life. Then I can say, oh, I designed that 10 years ago. I was part of that, initiative. Then that will make me very proud. So I think that's the beauty of technology. We don't know whether this technology will really make it through or not, but we just make a prediction, and then we make a full effort on it to make it as an essential and standard of life. So we are not interested in me. When I say we, it's me as a designer and my company. We are not interested in the gimmick for the sake of the gimmick or the sake of innovation. We just give a shot, and then we'll see. So we put our entire effort to identify what is the next step, what will be the next technology.
And is the question, you talked about it a little bit before, Henry. I mean, the goal, of course, is, as you said, to have an impact and a benefit, right? How does a brand have any specific levers it can pull, besides giving it a shot and thinking thoroughly about kind of these aspects, but to ensure a positive customer experience? Is there one thing or two things, as you think about your role, that you're if we don't do this, then it's a failure, or something like it?
Well, that's why I think the working with the multiple a counterpart is very important, because everybody is expertise in their own intersection. So R&D, they vocal from their point of view, and the design team got question, that's a great technology, but it wouldn't make a good aesthetic, for example, and then the marketing make their own point. So we always debate, we always question each other. We always go through this rational problem solving process. So we are now trying to make a product to only sell, to help us to have the better like a bottom line. That is very important to us, but at the same time, that bottom line should mean something, and then it'll help us to be able to move on to the next step. So instead of having one single like the goal or the process we are trying to achieve, we always trying to collaborate with other teams and try to be open-minded, try to understand like a social cultural movement and technological movement. So I'm design geek, I'm tech geek, I'm cultural geek. So I try to read everything, try to watch everything, try to talk to everybody. So try to read everything. So for me, if the one day, if I feel like I'm kind of tired of learning this everything, then I think that's the moment that I have to retire, because that means I start to lose my genuine interest in human life, right? So yeah, go ahead.
It's so interesting, Henry, because I mean, I feel like CX. So I wrote a white paper about CX back during the beginning of the pandemic, and it was about systems integration with all of the different touch points, right? And at a time when everything was broken or breaking, right? And I feel like CX, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned before, UX, UI, these are now like terms and acronyms that are in the, maybe not in the general population's, vocabulary, but certainly in the design world, it's very, very understood.
Right.
CX is still kind of out there a little bit. It's becoming more popular, it's evolving, but are we teaching CX in school? Like, is CX something you get to study? And if so, like, what does it mean? And if not, why?
You mean, good design evolve into like interaction design, interactive design, UX and UI. Now there are schools that provide a degree in UX, and then there's HCI, human computer interaction, and human factor. It evolved. Now, if you look at the student demographic of human factor HCI, like only less than half of them are actually design background. Like they're the psychology background or software engineering background, they all jump into this UX and UI. I think CX is kind of similar. I was in academia for many years, as you introduced me, and I believe the value and responsibility of higher education is not just touching the surface of a trend that is fleeting, but helping students to build a fundamental, strong structural foundation of their professional career. So like the flip side is curriculum shouldn't be dated either. So sometimes I feel like some academia or the professors, they just leave or they build this bubble of design utopia that doesn't the term utopia, actually it literally means that the land you cannot reach, like what's the point of teaching students, like giving them a false hope by teaching them like, you can do this, like when they go out, no, that didn't this is not what I was taught. So I don't want that to happen. But again, I just said before, creating this fundamental structure, a foundation, is the role of the curriculum. That's why I really think a professor's role is more important than ever nowadays, especially in the design and customer experience, the education. So they should have the key insight on industry move and cultural move and adopt them as swift as possible. I'm not in academia anymore. That's one of the maybe reasons I felt like I need to go out and then getting more experience, professional experience. I have a both experience, but I felt like I need to focus more on the professional side, because I felt like that I'm not like adopting this whole thing as I needed to. So now I'm doing this. So as well, in certain way, I'm not ready to go back to academia because I feel like I'm fully charged. And then I really want to do, to inspire the student with this, the information and experience I tried with the professional experience. So I think professors need to be more diligent to getting this, put themselves into this fast flow of the movement in society, in culture, and also technology, in industry and design. So yeah, so
When
I think the education system, I'm sorry, and professors need to be more flexible, adaptable, yet fundamental, not trendy. So that is the very important aspect of the new curriculum.
I love that, not trendy. I think it, and I also think that having practical experience in the professional world is helpful for teaching then what is not trendy and what is necessary as foundation. I mean, just coming to our end here, I like to ask, it's a new thing I started in the middle of season 6, which is, you know, and as a former academic and as a lifelong, I think, educator, Henry, and someone, if you were to be able to recommend 1 or 2 resources to our listeners today that they should look at or dive into to learn more about CX or see a great example, where would you send them? What would you tell them to do?
For me, it's hard because I said I feel like a designer, especially experienced designer, should have very keen awareness of what's going on right now. So I always watch CNN at the same time Fox, you know, simultaneously because I hate like this system of algorithm because it keep feeding me what I like. So that's why I try to watch something different to help me to understand what's going on the other side too. So I'm a human being. I cannot be on both sides. I have my own preference too. But at the same time, have to understand our target audience or our enemy or whoever, whatever, I don't know, our competitors.
Yep.
So try to experience everything, try to watch everything, try to listen everything. I just said that is very important. In my book, Graphic Design Discourse, I'm not trying to sell my book. I just use this as a reference. Second last chapter of my book is Essential Design. And the last chapter is a Process Design. So essential design is what I said, the pure design experience. That's where my heart that belong to. So I'm to the core. I'm a designer. So I love the title. Even when I'm the professor, I always put my occupation as designer. For now, I never put like a BP or design whatever in my job
I
title.
love that.
I'm designer. So that's my job. That's my calling. So that's essential design. I said, I mean, that is good, but that can solve everything. You know, design cannot solve like problem of like sustainability. We try our best, but we cannot be the only resource to solve every problem. Yes. So we have to work with everybody. That's why as a designer, we have to understand the beauty of system, beauty of a process. We need to be more open-minded. We need to be more structured. So that's what I call process design. So we designers shouldn't focus on only the final outcome, which is important, but the better entire the design process and experiential process service system. So then that we can really create holistic system that our technical skills that can be valued at the same time everybody else's skills that can be valued, and then create the synthesis and what is that the Whitehead call superject is the philosophical term. Superject is subject, that combination of everything that truly can solve a lot of problems. So I believe designer can contribute really critical part of creating that entire process.
Henry, as a last question, I know that you consider yourself a digital optimist. I'll put it in air quotes for the sake of this conversation. I mean, as we think about, I always ask my guests, like, as you look 25-ish years out to say 2050, you know, what are you most excited about? What's your hope for the field of CX?
Well, I think the design is a process. If we agree that design is a process of problem solving, you know, CX is also the process of problem solving too. So I have a list of problem I like to solve, right? So the Samsung can solve like so many different kind of problem. At the same time, there are other companies and other technology can solve different kind of problem too. So we have a crisis of healthcare system and the public transportation system, you know, the sustainability, then everything. So I really hope the technology we are developing and then in our future, a lot of this the problem will not be a problem anymore. And then of course there will be another different type of problem, which is okay. But as long as the problem we have will be solved, that's my hope. That's why I really hope what I'm doing will contribute to the problem solving of those problems. So after 10 or 20 years, when my kid or my grandkid ask me, hey, we don't have that problem anymore. Yeah, I worked on that project 10 or 20 years ago. That's what I really envision my success can be measured, not right now, So that's my hope. So I think that I'm surrounded by, including you, me, and the thank to organization like the IF and Samsung. We all try to make a design as a central, like the function of this, the movement to the journey to the better future, right?
Yes.
So I really try to be hopeful and optimistic about future, and because of that future will be the future my son and my grandson, my grandson will live. So I don't want to be dystopian. So even though I can assume why people have a dystopian view on the future, but what's the point of having dystopian future? Then what's the point of working for tech company if we don't believe in the future? So I believe in our future will be definitely better than the present.
I mean, that's what we all, as you said, all of our organizations, all of designers, that's what we all aim and strive for. And as you said earlier, Henry, it's like good CX will only, be able to be determined and judged, in time. And so hopefully your hope and the future that we're creating are coincide well and nicely, and we can look back and say that was great.
Of course, even the name of your podcast that stated that it's the future of XYZ, right? It's a future. We talk about future. We have to have a great hope on the future. So I think that's a way we can strive to have a better future.
Well, Henry Kim, global head of design strategy for Samsung, based in Seoul, South Korea. First episode, season 7, 2025. It's going to be a good start to the future, I hope. Thank you for joining us on Future of XYZ.
It's been an honor and a pleasure. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, Henry. And for everyone watching and listening, we are starting the new season presented by IF Design, part of Sandow's Surround Podcast Network. Please make sure you leave us a 5-star review. It's how other people find us. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Thanks again, Henry.
Thanks for the opportunity again to Lisa and IF Design.